Is it your impression that in the court of public opinion that Israel has somehow taken more of a hit during these 27 days than Hamas has?
There's no question. I mean, Hamas is a terrorist group, and people going in understood Hamas to be a terrorist group. Israel, thanks to outlets like CNN, has been turned into the villain in this particular scenario, and a moral equivalency has been drawn between the two groups. If Hamas could have come up with any sort of outlet that could have created a will to kill more Jewish babies and Palestinian babies, CNN would have been it. I mean, CNN is a key factor in drawing the same sort of equivalency that Hamas hopes to win from this entire conflict.
Hold on a second. I just want to stop you right there, because you're saying that because CNN has interviewed Palestinian families and shown Palestinian children who have been wounded or killed, that somehow CNN is saying that Hamas is okay. I don't think that those two are equivalent. We're not allowed to show the civilians caught in the crossfire?
Of course you're allowed to show civilians caught in the crossfire. You should also mention all the restrictions that Hamas puts on your reporting inside the Gaza Strip. You should also mention all the context with regard to Hamas putting children in harm's way. You should also routinely mention the fact that Hamas's charter calls for the destruction not only of the state of Israel, but for the murder of Jews across the world, which, of course, CNN does not.
Right after the media, Hillary Clinton was the second most targeted person on that stage, I would say. You know, the Republicans had the chance to go after each other on many opportunities. Instead, they turned the tables and went right after her. But, you know, she, I think, is actually one of the biggest winners last night. The more they duke it out, the more internal fighting there is, she stays above the fray. And come that general election, that is really going to help her.
But she was really weighing in last night, even though she wasn't there.
She was having a good time. I think she was actually really liking this. She was live texting her supporters throughout this debate. She was live tweeting it. One of the tweets that she retweeted, she said that she was LOLing about this debate.
Needs to be asked.
Well, the question is also being asked. A lot of attention has been placed on his candidacy, Donald Trump, in the media. Now you have reports saying, listen, what about his supporters? What are we learning about his supporters, the new people truly that he is, to his point, bringing into the fold? Gabe Gutierrez, actually, Jacob, one of our reporters, and I don't want to quote the wrong reporter here, was just out at the Trump campaign. I think we have the sound, and my team will have to tell me, where they spoke with some Trump supporters. Let's play what they said.
David Duke and people like that, they come out from under the rocks all the time around this time this year. It got nothing to do with Donald Trump. We're all Americans. I think we need to stop with all the racist stuff and the race baiting. Like me and my friend right here, we just met today, we was talking. You know, we got to stop with the racist stuff and this, that. We all Americans, man, and nobody paying David Duke no mind.
Clearly, let me just be clear here. Obviously, the majority of Donald Trump supporters are not African American. I don't know how many African Americans were in that building, but that is one person that we have chosen to cut that sound from, David.
Man, you are one pathetic loser.
On the campaign trail is obviously going to be covered. So my question to you, without mentioning the Clintons and Bill Clinton, which has been gone through. Wait, let me finish my statement. Which has already been litigated and relitigated on the own merits. Donald Trump's statements on the campaign trail. You don't think it's fair that the media should be covering it?
Oh, I don't think it's unfair. I just think it's silly. Look, he's running against Hillary Clinton.
Absolutely.
He's running against the sexual harasser and abuser's enabler. So, again, I don't know why we're not talking about that. You know, it has been litigated.
We're not talking about that because it has nothing to do. It has nothing to do with what happened. She's not her husband. Her husband wasn't. Hang on. Her husband has been impeached over that.
But Donald Trump's not known to be politically correct or a politician either.
And you're still. Hold on, guys. Both of you are talking over me. Let me finish. And then first Kurt, and then I will let you respond. You're talking about something that happened over a decade ago. The man has been impeached for it. She is not responsible for her husband's actions, yet you are bringing it into a campaign and it doesn't seem fair. What if you did the same thing with Donald Trump from something his spouse or his father, if someone else did in his family? It has nothing to do with him running for president. We're talking about his own actions, his own individual merit. So if you're going to talk about Hillary Clinton, then bring Hillary Clinton's actions into it. Don't bring her husband's Clinton's actions
I'd like
into
to
it.
bring Hillary Clinton's actions into it.
Absolutely.
When she was given the choice between standing with a serial sexual abuser and
All right,
with
Kurt.
women who are
Stop,
being
stop,
violated,
stop,
she
stop,
chose to
stop,
stand for her
stop,
husband,
stop,
a
stop.
serial
That's not fair.
sexual harasser.
That's not fair. That's not
That
fair.
is
Can we
fair.
stop that, please? It is
That's
not
fair. When
fair.
it came down to
It
a
is not
decision,
fair. It
Hillary
is a
chose
low
against
blow.
women.
It is the, yes, I want to end it. So
is
this is the
super fair.
lowest of the low, and it has nothing to do with Hillary
No.
Clinton.
Hey,
It is just
it's
a cheap
important to
shot
me,
that.
It's important to millions of other
Can you please
Americans,
stop? Can
and
we
that's
stop? Can we cut him
more
off, please?
important than,
Thank you.
Donald
Can we
Trump's
end this?
role in the world.
Thank you. We're done. Thank you. We'll be right back.
Man, you are one pathetic loser.
On Tuesday, November 8th, this country will make one of the most important
decisions in its history. You have a chance.
You have an obligation.
to be a part of that decision.
You might think it's not important. You might think you're not important.
But that's not true.
And the only way we can prove that to you is by having lots of famous people.
Lots of famous people.
Lots and lots of famous people.
Just a shit ton of famous people.
Repeating how important.
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 How important it is. Register.
Vote.
Famous people.
Some of us aren't as famous, but still pretty famous.
Like, you've seen us somewhere.
Sometimes a not famous person will be mixed in with the famous ones.
They drive the message home
because of their unpolished sincerity.
Their unpolished sincerity.
But you only get this many famous people together if the issue's
One that truly matters to all of us.
A disease or
Ecological crisis or
A racist, abusive coward who could permanently damage the fabric of our society.
Do the math. Do we really want to give nuclear weapons to a man whose signature move is firing?
firing things?
but we can end this nightmare before it begins.
We can save the day.
For our children.
For our children.
For our children.
For our communities.
For our communities.
For our communities.
For America.
For America. For America.
Facebook this morning is defending itself against accusations of political bias. An article posted Monday on the tech news site Gizmodo said Facebook workers suppressed conservative-leaning news stories in its trending section.
Overnight, the social media giant denied the claims. Tom Stocky, who heads up the trending topics team, wrote this: "We take these reports extremely seriously. There are rigorous guidelines in place for the review team to ensure consistency and neutrality. These guidelines do not permit the suppression of political perspectives." Gizmodo technology editor, that's Michael Nunez, wrote the article and joins us at the table this morning to discuss. Hi, Michael.
Hi, how are you?
So what made you guys look into it, and what exactly did you find?
So this started with the leaked document that was sent to Gizmodo unsolicited, and with that story,
Leaked document from?
A leaked document from a Facebook employee revealing an issue at the Menlo Park office. So it was about a Black Lives Matter note being scratched out on their famous signature wall and being replaced with All Lives Matter. So Mark Zuckerberg issued a statement privately in an internal document, and that was leaked to Gizmodo. When we published that story, it emboldened some Facebook employees to step forward and say, well, you think that's good? We have more information. And every time that we've published a story in the past 2 months, more and more employees have come forward with more revealing information. In the most recent case, we found that Facebook is sort of misleading the public about its trending news column.
How?
So it's misleading the public by saying that an algorithm is sorting what people are able to see, but what we've found is that a select group of about 20 journalists, young 20-somethings, often Ivy League educated or from private East Coast schools, are the ones that are sorting through the news feed and determining what people are able to see and, more importantly, what they're not able to see.
I thought that was interesting that you pointed out that they were from Ivy League schools. What are you trying to imply?
Well, I think that there's a selection bias with these editors, right? So these aren't seasoned New York Times editors. They're certainly not people from the Chicago Tribune. These are contractors in a lot of cases. They're low-paid workers that don't get the same benefits as Facebook employees. And I think that we just tried to report the information as we saw it. So in this case, we saw that these students were primarily East Coast educated, and we reported that.
Now, you write, however, in your article, quote, "There is no evidence that Facebook management mandated or was even aware of any political bias at work."
Correct.
So there's no indication that management had anything. This was some rogue employees, or?
No, I don't think it was rogue employees. I would call it an institutional failure. So, you know, when, you should have quote earlier about neutrality. Well, the fact is that they've set up a system that allows for human bias to enter, to impact what people are able to see in their feeds.
Facebook said popular topics are first surfaced by an algorithm, then audited by a review team that is not allowed to discriminate. It says it has designed its tools to make discrimination technically not feasible.
Well, you know, I think that you know, certainly that they can say that as much as they want, but, you know, the fact is that we have evidence of them blacklisting, in a lot of cases, conservative news. And
what's a particular story that they blacklisted?
Well, so the CPAC conference, for instance, you know, as that was going on, that was not allowed to trend in Facebook's trending news feed. In another instance,
not allowed means?
Not allowed means, so every single topic that is shown in the trending news feed needs to be activated by one of these curators. So they say, yes, this is okay, this is a news event, and we'll allow it to trend. The problem is, and so when they do that, they write a summary of the news event, a headline, and find some corresponding stories. The problem is that there's such an emphasis on numbers among these curators that they often choose easier stories like Kim Kardashian posting an Instagram photo. That's a lot easier to summarize than something as nuanced as Ferguson protests or you know, the Darren Wilson case or something along those lines.
And
something that's not
one-dimensional. Censor it.
one-dimensional.
Why, Michael? Why would they want to censor it?
You know, I don't think that this was an intentional. I don't think it was an intentional bias that's at play here. I think this is just a system that they've put in place that allows people to inflate news, basically using something called an injection tool to force news into the trending topics, and also suppress news, so they can also blacklist news. And so, you know, I think when we discovered that they were both artificially inflating, and also suppressing news, that calls into question the legitimacy of the trending topics entirely, right? These aren't exactly trending topics. They're being selected by an editorial board.
For those of us, for those viewers who don't know, tell us what Gizmodo is.
Gizmodo is a technology website that's focused on the future. We are interested in gadgets and things that will impact our future, and so social media is definitely a part of that. It plays an important part in our political discourse, and that's why we started to look into this in the first place.
And what are the implications here, in your opinion?
Well, the implications are huge. You know, this isn't just a newspaper, right? You know, there's nothing wrong with Facebook having an editorial board and choosing what the most important stories of the day are, but they need to be transparent about it, right? You can't call that a trending news section if these topics aren't legitimately trending in the first place. You know, we found evidence of them populating the algorithm with topics that weren't trending on Facebook at all. So those are called external topics. So in several instances, we found them manufacturing trends, and
have you reached out to them to talk to them?
Yes,
to get
we have, and I think that's another telling sign. You know, we gave them 3 days to respond to a series of questions about all of the facts listed in our story. They didn't respond to several emails and several phone calls. They still haven't. After we published the story, I tried calling them again and emailed, you know, a series of their communications representatives. No one has gotten back to me, and to me, that was a very telling sign.
Yeah! You've had an interesting perch in America to sit and watch a political campaign.
Yes.
We have now seen an election and looking at a new president. How do you see it? And what is your own sense of how we should react to Donald Trump?
Well, the biggest thing I've seen is America is not as immune to the ills of the world as it thought it was. You know, I think a lot of the world is disappointed in America because America is that beacon, is that lighthouse, you know, a bastion of democracy. And when you look at what happened during the election, I think it's sad that we're now living in a place where we're normalizing and moving on so quickly from two glaring truths that were part of what happened in the election. I acknowledge a white working class. That is something we can talk about. But we cannot deny that many of Donald Trump's supporters were earning large amounts of money. They're doing great for themselves. But there are people who put two things above everything else, and that is whiteness, and then that is also sex. And misogyny is a... You know, people talk about the glass ceiling, but what you don't realize is you can't see it because it's see-through. And misogyny has very quickly gone out of the conversation where, even as a man, I have to come to grips with the facts that it is a tough world to be in when there is this invisible monster that keeps you down.
They have a term in terms of racism called implicit bias.
Yeah, 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 definitely. And you see that many people, Hillary faced it throughout her life, you know, and I keep trying to think of that, and unfortunately I have to use a metric in my head where I say, if she were a man, and the fact that I even have to say that means that there is a problem.
Yeah.
You know, I have to say, if she were a man, how would I see her? Would, you know, her achievements, would they not pale, you know, would her shortcomings not pale in comparison to those achievements?
Just when I think you couldn't possibly be any dumber.
Walked down State Street and came back around. We wanted to stand back this way so we can show you just the size of the crowd at this point as people hold up their signs. You can see the Trump Tower right here, one of the tallest buildings in Chicago, and then right below it you have all these protesters who showed up. One of the reasons why we're also back here, they have a rap song that they're playing while they're walking that basically says F Donald Trump, and that's what they've been playing repeatedly over and over. We've seen a large group of people desperately coming out here. We're going to walk this direction just a little bit so we can show you the size of this crowd. Look, there was a few thousand people involved in this. This started around 5 o'clock and has been going on since then. This crowd continues to grow, and then sometimes it splits in half. People went down Lakeshore Drive, then they cut that off. The police got involved at one point, but everything has remained peaceful so far. There are some people, though, who don't agree with what's going on in terms of what's the protests. I just wanted to ask a real quick question. You said you don't mind that the people are protesting, but you're a little frustrated with how they're blocking the streets and what's going on. Tell me about how you feel about it.
They're blocking the streets, they're burning flags, they're standing on buses, they're writing swear words all over buses. It's not helping. This is not helping. I wanted Hillary to win more than anybody, and to stand out here and to not have a call to action and not be specific. That's why we're here where we are now, because we haven't been talking about policy, because we haven't been being specific, because we've been talking about things that don't matter, things that about personality, not policy, and there needs to be a call to action. And I need Hillary to stand up right now and walk in and sue the United States of America and say, back when black people couldn't vote, right? How many years ago your vote would have been 1/3? Guess what? Today it still is. Today, right now, it still is.
So you don't feel like this was a fair election, because it looks like Donald Trump won fair and square.
How did he win fair and square? Hillary had more votes. More human beings voted for Hillary. This isn't fair. We didn't get one vote. You didn't get a vote. It's just like back in the day when your vote was 1/3.
So the Electoral College, you're somebody who wants to blow that up. You want to get rid of Electoral College.
Just count the votes. It's ridiculous. Hillary, you're a lawyer. Walk in. Go to the Supreme Court. I believe in you, Hillary. I've been to Rwanda. I've been to your hospital in Rwanda. I've seen all the good you've done. I believe in you. Women need you. Minorities need you. I need you. Chicago needs you. We all need you. This country needs you to stand up and walk into the Supreme Court and say one vote equals one vote. What's wrong with that? What's the debate?
You can definitely feel his passion. There's other people out here who feel the same way. At one point, you had people who were blocking this road. Chicago police moved in. Everything has remained peaceful. And like I said, Don, as you see, thousands of people still continue to gather. But like you heard this man, very passionate about the idea. He doesn't want Hillary to stop.
Yeah, Brian, you know I used to live there, and I know that guy. That's John Gerkovic. He actually went to Africa with me as a cameraman. But anyway, that's another story. All right, thank you, John. Thank you very much, Ryan. I want to get back to...
Macroeconomics is not my deal. I'm just explaining why his numbers are down. So the people see $1 trillion of their tax money and nothing to show for it yet. But they also see a widening gulf between the president and them personally. And that's what I write about in Pinheads and Patriots. All right, let me give you an example. The mosque down here on 9/11. That's inappropriate. It's sure they have a right to do it, and the Constitution, but it's inappropropriate because a lot of the 9/11 families, who I know, say, "Look, we don't want that. That shouldn't be there."
But what about the discussion?
No. But there's the president. Right? There's the president going, "Well, they have a right to do it," and then the guy says, and then
this is America.
Hold it. Listen to me, because you'll learn. All right. He says to the press, yeah, they have a right to do it, and that's true. Yeah. And then the question is, but what about the wisdom of it, Mr. President? And he goes, I'm not going to comment. Whereupon everybody in the country goes, what?
Well, wait a minute. Let me ask you this. Let me ask you this. So you're saying that Americans are not smart enough to recognize that while it is part of our Constitution to say the freedom of religion and freedom to worship, and there were 70 families who are Muslim who also died in that building. Yeah. So you're saying that that his saying that they have the right to do it and not saying any more than that is why his approval rating has gone down?
I'm showing that there is a gulf between Americans wanted to know what his opinion was on the issue, and he wouldn't give it.
We're Americans.
That's one thing.
But you know,
So what about you agree with it?
No,
Most
we're Americans. I'm an American.
Let me break this to you. 70% of Americans don't want that mosque down there. So don't give me the we business. You want to bet on that? You want to bet? I'll show you that poll in a minute.
Americans don't want
it
but
down
why
there.
is that? But why aren't we saying...
Because it's inappropriate.
Why is it inappropriate when 70 families died?
Muslims killed us on 9/11.
Oh, my God. That is...
Muslims didn't kill us on 9/11? Is that what you're saying?
Excuse me, extremists
What religion were they in?
What religion was Mr. McVeigh? Mr. McVeigh was an extremist as well, and he killed people.
70% of the country.
I don't want to sit here. I don't want to sit here now. I don't. I'm outraged by that statement.
You're outraged about Muslims killing us on 9/11.
Who are these sick people?
My name is Saima and my grade is 2nd grade. My name is Akila and I'm in 3rd grade. I am Lena and I'm in 2nd grade. My favorite female leader is my mom. It would be my grandmother and my mother. My sister. My mom makes sure that I'm always healthy and I have always do my homework right. She's fair and she's responsible. I think that some people say that women shouldn't be president because they think that women aren't strong enough. People say that girls shouldn't be president because they're not ready for a girl president yet. I think they think men are better than women. They think women won't take the job seriously. They think they might not be enough confident. They don't think that women can't do anything. Even though we're different genders, we're still people and we still have the same rights. I think we should treat boys and girls the same because we're all human beings and human beings should have the same exact rights. We're all human beings, but we're just different in gender. Girls and boys has to be treated fairly. Women can do anything that men can do. If I became president, I would help our country and make sure the country is safe. I would provide homes for the homeless people. If I was becoming president, I would have took selfies and I would also make sure that my world was clean and safe. If I became president, I would show respect. I would think about other people before I think about myself.
Rain brought them to him.
My mother was there.